All right, guys, welcome to the video that's going to be about indicators and how we use them here at TG and BRT. So the first one I'm going to go over is the Relative Strength Index RSI. Now, a lot of you, I'm sure, have used this. There are no modifications to these edits. It's still 70-30, over hot, over cool, oversold, overbought, you name it. Color coordinate at the bottom. Now, we use the RSI in a very specific way to assert trend, okay, and continuation and probability of that continuation along with entries and exits. So we're going to start with a few examples here. We're on the 5-day, 5-minute, just taking a peek at Tesla. And we're on a little bit of a loop here. So the channel, if you notice my RSI in the bottom right here, has a white line through it. And that is the halfway point, essentially. So 50. So in between 30 and 50, or 30 and 70 is going to be 50. 30 plus 20, 50, 50 plus 20, 70, so on and so forth. The halfway point helps the eyes and helps the trend of stocks. And you don't see a lot of people utilizing this, but we're going to give a couple of these away for free here at TG. So the first couple examples, the last couple of days of trading, I want you guys to look at here. So if you take a peek at the bottom of our trade day to the left, the RSI, starting here. So this is your pre-data. This is your live data, right? And you see a pop into the top channel, right? And the channel is, of course, being above. So 50 to 70 on the relative strength index. Now, Tesla had a little bit of a dip into the overcool section, snapped right back up to the top, and then put in some nice topping action for resistance. But something that would have told you to keep inclined to look short, and I know the range has been pretty dead lately, but these do still work out very well. After the RSI was hot down here and over purchased, we have a double top scenario where a short play here, because of our over hot, would have been reputable to play. Now, notice the lower high and lower low trend that line is putting it on RSI, regardless of the price action seemingly going more or less sideways, right? We're not breaking into fresh lows, trending fresh lows or anything like that. But the RSI is front running this, telling us that there is a potential that Tesla could come back down and break that halfway point and move lower back towards that cool section again and then maintain. So what I talked about trend earlier is the top channel of the RSI and bottom channel of the RSI is the trend of the price action you should be watching. So let's talk about entry after that as well. So when you see this consolidation here and the RSI giving you short signals saying the relative strength index is cooling, it's coming down, just kind of hovering the 50, looking for a break because we are not setting highs on trend. We're not coming back up to the high point, or at least holding higher low points, trending in the top of the RSI channel. We're not doing that. We're doing more of a bouncing ball short. If you know what that looks like on stocks, where it keeps hitting a base and then producing lower highs over and over again, essentially waiting for the crack, right? And that is what will happen. So coming down into the bottom here, notice two little instances of a scalp. It moved itself from a very weak top channel coming down and then to the bottom. Now, for an entry, what we like to use, you get the crack, right? It came back down to a major support. This is a 200 SMA in the peach, and it popped from there. Well, if you look down to the RSI, we went near cool, pushed back up into the halfway point, because now remember, we are trending in the bottom half of this channel, okay? We are on short watch. We are on watch where a trend would continue down because of the weakness in the lower part of the relative strength index. An entry on this is always the halfway point. So if something would pop to the halfway point from the bottom of the channel, so move up into the 50 point of the channel, it has an inclination to short and keep trend because we are on the low side of the RSI, right? So notice, let's pair this up now. You can see a top action here. You scoot that right down to entry, which is going to be your 50 halfway point of RSI, and that would be a short end of the day because we had rode this up channel for nothing all day, right? Didn't break out, didn't give us any signals besides breaking down the 50. And then where's the short? Well, you don't want to short on an overcool, right? Down here, it already did a nice move down, ran into support. What you want to wait for? You wait for the retrace and the confirmation. So this push back up to here for entry at the 50 would have been your short entry and coming back down. Now, because the range is tight, but these always work out pretty well to read. It is only about a 0.40 on Tesla, but the move is there, right? So let's look at a couple other instances. Let's look at our market. It's been pretty choppy throughout. Maybe AMD, maybe Microsoft. We can just do these live because they are usually pretty readable here. Microsoft's actually been on a pretty squeezy tear even today for some of these dips, which are giving us some really good signals as well. You can see Microsoft now in the last couple of days here, very similar to obviously Tesla being FANG. It's going to react similar, but the push out of the gate, slow trend down all day. So a lot of these instances will sell calls at the top high days where we see RSI depleting into the chop channel, and noticeably the trend works relatively well. Oh, you can't see that because my picture's in the way, can you? Scoot that over. So we have the sell call area up here where we would be selling up near 314s for options if we weren't trading any futures on today because of this indicator of the RSI. The RSI noticeably ran hot, came down, produced lower highs, lower lows, all the way down to the 50. Last little ditch effort, broke back down. Now, this is the same thing as a trend break in stock. These lines on the relative strength index work. So a fresh low break, you're going to wait for the reverse and then dump, right? Now, if you look to your left on this reverse, where's your resistance stop? Well, same marker as RSI right here, right here. So if you look to your left, there was like a 60-ish area where the relative strength index came into resistance and failed. But that trend break, right? Fresh low break. Do you short lows? No. We wait for the retrace into prior resistance, and then you had a dump candle at the end of the day, right? So let's move on to a couple other little small examples of the relative strength index. And this does work on all time frames. The best ones for me are 5 and 1 minute. Depending on the day and depending on the volatility. So today was a pretty good Biden one. So obviously we're going to try to come back to, we had a really big chop actually in the last however long. Let's move into today because today even has a lot of good inclination of recovery channel. So we're looking at TOS doing TOS things. There we go at the SPY. Now the SPY, let's do one more little example here for the relative strength index, 5-day, 5-minute chart. We started the day at a opening drop, right? Came back up, opened up under the pre-market high, obviously, rolled just a smidge under some standard deviation, and came back down. And we said there was no longs to be had because everything was pretty exhausted into the top of pre-market. So if you look down at that relative strength index, you're going to see near overbought conditions. So you're going to want to wait for that retrace and that setup. And actually, our setup for today was a dip to rip, and that was our joke of the day, waiting for the dip for our chip. So that run-of-the-mill backup squeeze here, you can tell by RSI. Relative strength index went for a cool, went for a little bit of a trap, pushed, right? Came back up. 50 halfway point there, okay? So that 50 marker right there, that 50 halfway point on the RSI. Now you see that white line there recovered and became support during the Biden and the consolidation of just grinding up. We had some good moving average crosses, but we're focusing on RSI. So the move back up here, and now it dinged here, support 50, higher high, okay? Right here, higher high again, right here, dinged support, and flew from there. Now, of course, this was the super big run to our target of the 415 unfilled gap today, but noticeably, look at that RSI, right? You stretch that out a little bit. Make sure you can really see that line down there. We'll draw it one more time. So went from the overcool, recovered the top of the channel. Now we went from lower trend, right? Lower channel, to the upper channel because we split it by the 50. Now this 50 is now recovering, holding 50, setting in the higher highs, looking for the run. You can see the momentum of the market moving with it. You see a huge volume beat right here. So buyers in control, stacking those catalysts together. So that RSI gave us yet another momentum trend indicator to buy this up and let the squeeze run after we finally got the Biden catalyst. So those are just small tips and trips on the RSI intraday, and we'll cover some more on the next.